Hello, everyone. Welcome into the show today. I am extremely excited to welcome in today's guest for the show, and we're going to have some fun with this one. Already have been able to spend some time with him earlier today, but this young man started his professional career in the MLS with the Metro Stars, then joined Manchester United for a stint, but winning the FA Cup as well as the League Cup, and then spent 10 seasons at Everton, becoming a fan favorite known as the Secretary of Defense. Love that one. He represented the United States in 3 World Cups. Legend in the net. He's an analyst, a football pundit. He's also a co-host of his own podcast, Unfiltered Soccer. Go check that one out if you haven't already. And also a minority owner of the Houston Dash and Houston Dynamo football clubs. All-around legend, Tim Howard. Welcome to the Pivotal Breakthrough Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a true honor to be here with you.
It's great to spend some time with you in this capacity. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we've known each other for some time and get to work together in, how we're building the football, especially in Houston. But first, I'd love for you to take us back a little bit. Tell us something that people don't really know about you.
Oh, yeah. Gosh. I mean, I think that people are always sort of surprised to hear, and it was sort of my world, and it never really dawned on me. But I played in the highest level with some of the biggest players on the biggest stages and all those things. And I was scared to death every time I crossed the lines, every time. And I think that people are surprised because there's a certain bravado that I had to portray as a leader, as a goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. As someone who's trying to aspire to be a top player. But I was fearful every time I went on the field, and whether that came through or not, I was always so nervous and afraid of the what ifs. Now, I think part of success is overcoming those, sure, but it wasn't because they weren't there. And I think a lot of people even people who know me intimately, best friends, are like, wow, I didn't realize that. And I think when you play at that level, that sort of never goes away. That, maybe the whistle blows and you get 2 or 3 days reprieve from it, but then that angst starts building again. So, I often tell people, you probably don't know that about me, but it's something that was present every day.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. It's so fascinating too, especially when you talk to high performers, when you learn about what that's like. I think there is an assumption, for the general public that you never lose your confidence. Right. You're never scared when you step out, and especially in your role as a goalkeeper, the last line of defense, right? And the stalwart and net, it is more about how you're managing those moments when you go in, so that in the moment, you don't necessarily have that. But yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. You mentioned confidence. It's something that when it first started when I went to England and I was playing in the Premier League, I wrestled with this idea. Now I have a very clear vision of it and I talk about it, but I wrestled with this idea of self-confidence, because what I didn't realize was that self-confidence and self-belief are completely separate. Mm-hmm. And I thought they were together. I thought they were tied together. And what I came to realize, and what I tell people all the time now, is self-confidence is when you are playing well or not playing well, when you're winning and losing. If you're winning, you're high on confidence. Sure. When you're losing, you're low. But self-belief, if you want to get to the top, can never waver. And so that can never be low. It always has to be high, your belief in yourself. And so once I was able to separate those two things, it fascinated me really, because I was, for so long, thought they were tied together.
How can you dig into this a little bit with me, because I think that's a really important distinction. Mm-hmm. How were you able, one, to understand that those were two separate things, and then how did you manage in between?
I think sort of when I was, when I went to Manchester United, had 1 or 2 good seasons and then sort of failed. You could see yourself as a failure because you hear things that are said and you read things that are written. But then I started having success, right? And so when, we're sort of a product of our experiences. And if you have success and good feedback, you start to feel good about yourself. I think the self-belief part is a little bit trickier because, as you know, and you've had your the highest of highs, and you've also failed, you almost have to trick yourself into believing you're the best.
Yep.
So you're almost constantly telling yourself this rhetoric every day. I'm capable. I'm good enough. I can play in the Premier League. I can do all these things. Even though failed a little bit, you still have to believe it every day in training. And so it's sort of you have to remind yourself daily. And if you do that enough and you're sort of good enough, you'll then trick yourself into believing that. And that's actually that's the key. That's the cheat code. Because once you then start believing it, then you're good to go.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that. And as we know, athletic sports, it's so much of it is that mental game, right? It is the self-talk. It's making sure that you're mentally sound, and it's building up that muscle, right? Day in and day out. And talk to us a little bit now, how you've translated all of these lessons, all of these skills that you've acquired through just sports participation over the years. And what are you doing now? What's keeping you busy, and how have you leveraged that?
Well, being a dad with two college age kids, and my daughter plays soccer at University of Tennessee, and it's like a small little segue is I oftentimes, she's a good girl and she's got a good head on her shoulders, but when she starts when she starts talking a certain way, I'll always say, like, careful how you talk to yourself, because I think it's important to remind yourself how great you are, even on your tough days. I work for NBC Sports. We cover the Premier League, and that is relentless, because the Premier League is always, as everyone knows, there's so many storylines, and it's almost this beautiful sort of soap opera. The games are important, but all the subplots are incredible. Hosting a podcast with my good friend London Donovan, Unfiltered Soccer, which we have a ball with. We've got a great team behind us, great production staff and social staff, and then I do a lot of corporate speaking with partners that I've sort of developed over the years. So I live on a plane, is what I tell most people.
Yeah.
And so it's great. And what I always say is, right now I'm all soccer all the time. Like, everything I do is sort of surrounding the game. I don't like to play the game, but I love the game. I love to be around the game.
Yeah. Except for maybe when your daughter's challenging you and her teammates, right? At Scott. I saw that.
I got a whooping.
That was great.
It was no fun. And, and then of course what the work that we're doing, with Houston Dynamo and Houston Dash, and building, continuing sort of the legacy of these two clubs in the city, and, with the help of people like yourself, trying to create a winner. And that's it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of there's a lot of failure involved in building a football club, but it's also some good days ahead, which we obviously you and I have spoken about at length. So yeah, there's a lot of soccer on my plate, which I enjoy.
Yeah. And speaking of a lot of soccer and what's coming to the United States, and specifically Houston as a host city, how is this World Cup impacting your day-to-day and all soccer? All things?
Well, yeah, everything we have, obviously, with with our club, it's going to be a training ground, and it's going to be a place that is going to be welcoming for some of the best national teams in the world. So that's obviously important to us. In terms of what's going on with the World Cup, just we've got live podcasts in 3 different cities, in LA and Dallas and in New York, and then everything. Obviously I'm going as a fan as well. I'm going to try and get to 3 games, definitely the U.S. game, opening game, and then a couple others. One in Houston, and haven't quite decided where yet. So that'll be fun. It's really special for me, and you can appreciate this. I am trying to sort of give back to some of, like, my friends and family who've, like, traveled the world to see me play in World Cups, and I'm sort of like, I want to go to the games. I want to take them as a fan with me, which is special because I don't get to go to games as fans. I often say I watch a lot of soccer, and I very rarely can go to a game that I'm not in a work capacity, that I'm having a beer and hanging out and going crazy. So I'm really looking forward to that, and the impact that is going to be seen on these host cities, and what it's going to do for the city of Houston is it's incredible. We've seen it across the globe. So really excited. And I was a product of 1994, when we had nothing in this country regarding soccer. And it's probably disrespectful to the trailblazers that came in the 80s and 90s, but we didn't have anything of substance at that time. And sort of to be a teenager watching games in the Rose Bowl, and then now here we are. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I totally resonated with what you said about just being able to be a fan with your family and friends. I remember actually back in, so it's 2004 Olympics for us, and it was in Greece, and it was great. We had our friends and family section out there, right? And I remember we were getting back from training, and we were checking in with our family, and they had said, "Oh, we've organized a boat trip over to Santorini. We're gonna go hang out over there and party, and but have fun training and practicing." Like, well, yeah, we're here to do the job, right?
But you don't get it's so funny. So like you don't get to enjoy. You're so in the moment. You're so nervous. It's the what if. It's the excitement, and I can remember that same sort of feeling. Like I'm running down to the lobby to have coffee with my family, but I gotta go get treatment, and I got to go to team meal. I'm like, we're not having fun here. This is work.
This is our job. This is our job. No, I love it. And I mean, I think you were touching on a little bit with just the importance, right, of this World Cup, and 3 World Cups that you've participated in. And I think right now there's so much attention on our U.S. men's program, but what stories do you feel are important to share and tell, and how are you using this moment, especially with the United States being one of the host countries for this World Cup?
Well, it's the one thing that I've shared constantly, which I truly believe in, is sort of the power of the host nation. And I can sort of earmark like France in 1998. They won the World Cup in France. 2002, South Korea makes this incredible run, I believe, to the semifinals. Germany in 2006, a young German team gets to, I think they finished 3rd place. Bafana in South Africa in 2010. Like they didn't go very far, but if you were there, you saw this nation sort of lift this team up. And I really, truly believe for our men that they're going to do really good things. They're a really good team. But as they start to galvanize and sort of harness this energy, I really think they're going to become everybody's other team or darling team. And they're going to sort of feel that emotion and that energy and I just encourage so many of the fans in this country to get behind the team, because this is one of those moments they truly will feel it. We felt it in World Cups when we were a million miles away, and you can just feel the energy. So being at home, I mean, our boys are really, really going to feel that power.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for them, because I do think it's this interesting, you're kind of holding space for both. You want to bring that type of energy in to energize you and leverage your success. And at the same time, you're trying to focus and stay in that bubble too.
Right.
So
That's right.
It's such a unique experience to participate in a World Cup at the world's largest stage, right, for the world sport. You've accomplished so much in your short time on this earth, but take us back a little bit. Take us back to 10-year-old Tim. What do you call it, Timmy?
Very few people do.
10-year-old Tim. What was he thinking about in terms of his future?
It's you're talking about the late 80s, and I vividly remember, and I probably said this all the way through high school. Like people asked me what I wanted to be, and I wanted to be a professional athlete. I wanted to be a professional soccer player, which sort of meant nothing because there was no pathway for that.
Sure.
And then it was at one point it was like, well, I want to play in Europe, and didn't know what that meant, but there was no pathway for that. I always had this incredible love for the game. I just wanted to be on the field. Whether it was raining or whether we were winning or losing, it didn't matter. I wanted to be running around. I wanted to be with my friends. I enjoyed it right from the beginning. And sort of 10 years old in this country is when you have to start trying out for state teams, and the worry of, did I make it? And then you make it, and now you want to be a part of a regional team, and so like you're getting this sort of local fame and notoriety, and that was who I was. And grew up in New Jersey, had a really good upbringing. Didn't have a lot, but had a really good upbringing, particularly with sports. And I was just all sports all the time. And so that's sort of when soccer, for me, that was that turning point. That was kind of, I started to become not a full-time goalkeeper, but like I was known as a goalkeeper at that point, sort of 10 years old, 11. So Yeah, it was big moments for me.
Wow. So at 10, that was when you started formulating, okay, this is an identity, right? Around it a
Yeah, I
little.
was pretty
Yeah.
good. Again, as I mentioned, I was being praised for being good, and I
Yep.
was, one of the only kids in my area making the state team as a goalkeeper,
Sure.
and then the regional team in ODP back when that was a huge thing. So yeah, and I think those experiences sort of cultivate your motivation, and it felt good to be a part of a team where you had friends who praised you for what you were doing on the field. And that's a big thing. That's why I love sports.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And obviously it's not all easy. There are obviously many challenges. You were just talking about, there really wasn't a pathway that you could see, so that whole see it to believe it doesn't necessarily exist for you. But
Right.
talk us through a little bit in terms of some of those challenges that you did face,
Mhm.
and when you did have to really pivot into
Mhm.
potentially another direction.
Mhm.
What was that like for you?
Well, I think I didn't know it at the time, but I think challenges sort of, our challenges are what make us. I don't
Mm,
believe our
yep.
success is what we're known for, but I don't think I think it's our failures and our challenges that sort of make us who we are.
Yep.
And shape us. And it's interesting you said like 10 years old. It's right about that time, because at the time I didn't care because I was so
Mhm.
young, but it's around that time that I'm starting to show signs of Tourette syndrome, and my family doesn't know what it is. And we get a diagnosis 8, 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
And so that's this like huge sort of like family burden and burden on me. But I had some really cool friends. I was always outside. I was always playing soccer and other sports, and so like it was a challenge, but it wasn't like this major burden. It wasn't like that sort of as I get older into teenage years,
Mhm.
it's a bit like you know my 15-year-old brain starts going, are my ticks going to hold me back from dating girls or driving a car or playing soccer, like all these things that like
Yeah.
are meaningful to a 15-year-old is like, I don't want that stuff to go away. I don't want to stop playing soccer. So, there's sort of mental hurdles to that. But um, all in all, I believe that if you have the right, that aside, even in soccer, if you have the right mentorship, I sort of think even the failures help to spur you on. And again, there was uh, with any athlete there was failures. It was
Sure.
days I didn't make certain teams or didn't win, and but the hunger to keep going, the hunger to want more, has always been there. And I think that's what I'm most thankful for when I think about like the low times.
Hmm.
It never really set me back to where I thought I'm at a crossroads here. I want to give this all up.
Yeah.
It only ever motivated me to do more.
Where does that drive come from for you?
I think my mom, watching my mom as a single mother of two, sort of like I say to people all the time, which is a really odd picture to paint. Like I had such an incredible upbringing,
Yeah.
and yet we had nothing. Honestly, we had nothing. We had some dry goods in the pantry, and we never went hungry. And my mom sort of made these wild meals out of nothing. And even when we couldn't afford to turn the heat on, we'd gather in the kitchen and turn the stove on. And so like, but like I look back, if someone were to say like, how was your childhood? 10 out of 10. It
Sure.
was great, But then I think about why. It probably wasn't a 10 out of 10 for her, for my mom during the 80s and 90s, because she was working two jobs and barely make ends meet. And so, yeah, I've sort of always seen that strength from her. Also realized that my talent is a gift and that it
Mhm.
needed to be harnessed and sort of like, n- ah, as hard as things got and as hard as you work, I could always sort of like how we view things and our perception is
Mhm.
important. And I always can remember even on my worst day thinking, ain't as bad as my mom had it. And I watched her struggle. So I'm like, I'm okay. It's okay to be upset today, but like tomorrow,
Yeah.
it's time to turn it back on. So yeah, I think we are a product of our parents in that sort of environment, and it was always hard work all the time.
Yeah, that's incredible. And
Yeah.
it's, you said that perspective, right? Being on the other side now as a parent, a dad yourself, right? The appreciation level for
Totally.
those positive adult influences in our life
I know.
are
Huge.
truly incredible.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about, some of the breakthrough moments that you've had in your career,
Mm-hmm.
and what type of common themes maybe, and what threads you've seen along the way with those
Mm-hmm.
breakthroughs.
Well, most of my breakthrough moments were sort of when I would, joining MLS as an
Mm-hmm.
18-year-old was a huge breakthrough for me. Even though I didn't play much, but it was still like signing a professional contract was huge. And then going over to England and signing for Manchester United when people were like, "This is crazy! Like,
Right.
who is this kid?"
Yep.
Right about that time or just before, getting my first cap with the men's national team. I think that was 2002.
Okay.
The fact that I don't know the exact date is shocking, but I'm almost sure it was 2002.
I got it in
And
your bio.
yeah, it's right somewhere. And it's the sort of those moments, and even in probably the Belgium game in the 2014 World Cup was, I wouldn't say it's a breakthrough, it's a shining moment sort of thing. And um, it was the common thread for me was just this hyper focus that I had in the biggest moments.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm thankful for that. The only reason I say that is because a lot of athletes, and we have regrets, we all do, but a lot of athletes get to that moment and they waste it, or they sort of miss the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to my daughter about that all the time. I said, like, the moment's gonna come, and do not miss it, and you'll kick yourself if your mind is here, there, everywhere else, and you miss the moment. The moment will come. It's just about harnessing it and grabbing it. And I sort of think in all of those big moments when I needed to be focused and I needed to play well, but be present in the moment so that I could grab the opportunity. I did. And I was very thankful because I saw a lot of friends and colleagues and other players miss that moment. Like, you could physically, tangibly see, like, this is their moment and they miss it. And for me, the common thread is that, and I'm very thankful that I was hyper aware enough to one, know the moment was coming, and do well in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. And I think, and if for me, sitting back from afar, who you've been is a pioneer really in the men's game, especially as an American
Yeah.
footballer. You were maybe not the first, but one of the first really to do the things that you've done and to really explore different spaces, I think, on the men's side. So I think you have really taken these opportunities with your hyper focus and turned it into something that really has impacted so many people in a very positive way, I think.
Yeah. I obviously appreciate that. I also am very appreciative of the pioneers who came before me, in basically in the generation right before me, and that's Claudio Reyna and Casey Keller and Brad Friedel and Brad McBride, and these guys who, and I'm missing some, but these guys who really truly um, went over to Europe and did the hard work, and it didn't save me from doing the hard work. It just paved a little bit better path, and so yeah, I'm certainly thankful.
Yeah. And you're also, one of the great male athletes that has been really extremely, I think, supportive, and you advocate for women and women in sport.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what is that for you? Obviously, I know you're a girl dad,
Yes, yeah.
but it's more than that, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's I think that it's sort of when I watch women's sports, there's such incredible athletes. I think I'm such an admirer of athletes and how people move and the way they apply themselves, and that isn't a male or female trait. That's just an athletic trait. And sort of seeing how women have had to, yourself included, have had to fight to gain that notoriety, to gain the respect, to earn the money. It's just it's astounding, and it is noteworthy in every way. And so, yeah, I oftentimes think, and I even think on certain levels in the women's game as well. Like my daughter goes to an amazing school with lots of money, and I look at and I'm in touch with other schools and they don't have as much, and it's like, well, those young women still want the same college experience and
Yep.
should have the same baseline
Sure.
as other schools. And so on every level, I just enjoy watching great athletes perform. And then obviously, yes, of course, with a daughter who is into sports and doing that, um, it's really admirable to watch what you all have done. Because I have had conversations with, she's now 18, but a young teenage girl who said, I want to do this. And I'm like, well, now you actually can. We talked about the pathway,
Yep.
for her to be able to say for me as a father to say back to her, sure. Yeah. There's if you work hard enough and you're good enough, there's a pathway.
Yeah.
Whereas, probably with your generation, if you said that to your parents, they might go, I don't know. Sure. I'm not sure that can happen. So I think women's sports is such an incredible space. On so many levels. And it, for me, I enjoy being a part of it. Like even being out there today and seeing where this league has gone is sort of mind blowing, to be honest. It's wonderful to be a part of.
Yeah. And Tim, I could sit here and talk to you all day. Absolutely. And there's so many more things I would love to ask you, but I think just to wrap this up, one last question for you here. And in terms of what you have seen in the space of women's soccer, what have you seen that has changed, and what direction do you feel like we are going?
So yeah, it's interesting. It's what I've seen change is sort of you all have, I think, particularly on the big level, the big time, the Olympics, the World Cup, U.S. women's national team, and then obviously that trickles down. You're sort of the architect of your own competition, because from where I see it, it's the U.S. women have been the best in the world, and in that time, whatever that framework looks like, 1999 was a huge moment, but probably before that, within that framework, the rest of the world has caught up. And not surpassed, but caught up. And they said, well, we need to put real dollars into things. And we need to, that's, those women in the US, that's the benchmark. And I think sort of what I see now is that next push of being on top for so long. And now everyone's chasing and sort of watching us in an NWSL and watching our women's national team sort of go into the next stratosphere of saying, like, we still need to be on top, but everyone's getting closer. And that lights a fire under people, and you really sort of see, when you want to talk about seeing people work and operate under pressure, that's when it really counts. And I think we're seeing that, and it's amazing to see, because I bang that drum, and I think our women are the best in the world year on year, and it's special. But it is also special to see the rest of the world catching up. I really do, and hopefully we'll stay on top as the U.S. Women's National Team, and as you and I sit here trying to continue to build the NWSL into the best women's league in the world. And that's a challenge, but it's also, I think you and I both agree, it's very doable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as a fellow U.S. national team alum sitting next to you, it's been an honor and a privilege to spend this time with you. Thank you for spending the time and sharing the space.
I
Tim
appreciate
Howard.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.